This is the e-learning course Strategies for Pest Control in Organic Pome Fruit Pear. The major pests of organic pear were inventorized in the BioFruitNet project, in workshops, and in a questionnaire, and we asked fruit growers, researchers, and advisors over whole Europe. The major pests were determined. These were Pear gall midge, Contarinia pyrivora, Codling moth, Cydia pomonella, Pear sawfly, Hoplocampa brevis, and stink bugs. This is the upcoming stink bug Halyomorpha halys, but also the red-legged shieldbug Pentatoma rufipes. Codling moth and stink bugs can also occur in apple. Pear gall midge, Contarinia pyrivora. A very small midge, which overwinters in the soil. The midges fly very early in season, end of March, beginning of April at bud break. You can see that on the left-hand side. The eggs are laid in the flower buds in the still half-closed clusters. Larvae feed in the developing young fruitlets, and after 30 till 40 days the mature larvae drop to the soil and form a cocoon. The overwintering in the soil is at about 5 till 10 centimeter depth. Pupation is in February, beginning of March, and then the midges appear again. The symptoms and damage of pear gall midge. The larvae cause deformation and accelerated growth of the fruit. The fruit set seems good, all thick pears, but the fruitlet is filled with larvae. The fruit fall on the soil, or the larvae fall on the soil, and the fruit can remain on the tree and fall later. Or, when the larvae are fallen, the fruit can also grow and become a misshapen pear, like you see on the right-hand side. Monitoring and management of pear gall midge. Monitoring is possible with transparent traps with pheromone lures, like you see on the left-hand side. It is very important to hang the lures and the traps just above the soil because they come out of the soil, the midges. Preventive measures is removal of infested fruit. This can be a whole bunch of fruits which you remove, and you can see that on the right side in the blue thumb, all fruitlets infested by pear gall midge. Direct measures have a low efficacy. You can use pyrethrin extracts before bloom, or spinosad when allowed, but this has side effects on beneficials. Mineral oil is also applied sometimes, but the efficacy is rather low. In 21 and 22, we have had research on alternatives. We tried to catch the midges with pheromone traps. We caught a lot of midges, but the efficacy was too low to have any effect on the damage. But the pheromone lures were excellent for monitoring. The second disease on pear is Cydia pomonella codling moth. This insect damages as well apple as pear. The life cycle is as follows. The larvae, when they are adult, leave the fruit and they pupate under the loose bark and nearby debris. After the moth appears in spring, end of May, June, they mate and start laying eggs, and the eggs are laid on leaf surface and on fruit surface. When the egg hatches, a very small larva comes out and bores into the apple. It has 5 larva stadia, and it can make big holes in apple and in pear. When they have had their 5 life stadias, they exit the fruit and they go under the loose bark and nearby debris to pupate, and in some regions form a second, third or fourth generation. Symptoms and damage of codling moth on pear. Like an apple, the larvae penetrate the fruit by digging galleries into the flesh, as you see in A. A small lump of gunk and excrement forms around the entrance hole, as you see in picture B. The larvae can enter anywhere in the epicarp of the fruit, but they have a preference for the calyx area. In research in the Netherlands, it appeared that in conference, Pear, in the first 2 till 4 weeks of the egg-laying period, the small larvae cannot penetrate into the pear. But later in the summer, conference is much more sensitive than Elstar. So the penetration of the small larva is much better later in the summer in conference than it is in Elstar. Monitoring and management of codling moth. The monitoring can be done with traps with pheromone lures. And decision support tools like FruitWeb or Rimpo can predict when the moths fly, and they also can predict on basis of temperature sums. They can predict when the larvae hatch and when the second generation will come. There are several preventive measures like mating disruption. The men don't find the woman because the pheromone of the woman is spread through the pheromones in the air. You can have physical barriers like netting or removal of infested fruits, very effective when it's the first generation. Preservation of natural enemies like earwigs, spiders, etc. And bird nets and bed boxes, because as well birds as bats eat larvae and moths of codling moth. Direct control with plant protection products is possible with granulosa foliars, spinosad when allowed, but it has side effects on beneficials, and nematodes can be used in autumn on overwintering larvae. As a preventive measure is also very important to improve biodiversity by flower strips, etc. Pear sawfly, Hoplocampa brevis. Pear sawfly overwinters in the soil. The adults fly at the end of March, beginning of April. At white bud, start flowering period. The eggs are laid in the flower bottom of flowers. The larvae feed on the developing young fruitlets, and after 20 till 34 days the larvae drop to the soil and burrow in the soil. They form a cocoon in summer and overwinter. Pear sawfly is a bit smaller than apple sawfly. Pear sawfly is about 5 mm versus apple sawfly circa 6 mm. Symptoms and damage of pear sawfly. The larvae eat in the young fruitlet. They form black lines, black rings, in the bottom of the flower, as you can see on the left-hand picture. In the middle you see a larva which is mining in the fruitlet. The larva can damage 2 till 3 neighboring fruits. The fruit does not set and fall on the soil. Monitoring and management of pear sawfly. Like all sawflies, they are attracted by the Pear sawflies are attracted by the white of the flowers. You can monitor them with white sticky traps or tapes. Preventive measures. Moth trapping. Moth trapping is in an experimental stage. In the Netherlands, we have done some research in the years 21-22 with white sticky tapes. We hang about 150 till 250 per hectare, as you can see on the right-hand side. The effect was significantly between no tapes and tapes. The removal of infested fruit is possible, or take care that you preserve the natural enemies, and the research of the mass trapping is ongoing. We have promising results from pear orchards. Direct control with plant protection products. Neem-based products have an effect on the larvae which are in the apple or pear and can reduce secondary infection. But do not use neem on conference pear because it's very phytotoxic. Quassia can be used when allowed at full bloom petal fall, and spinosad can also be used when it is allowed. Brown marmorated stinkbug Halyomorpha halys. It is an emerging pest in Europe and highly polyphagous. The host plants are numerous: fruit, apple, pear, peach, plum, vines, vegetable plants, tomato and other Solanaceae, legumes, cereals and ornamental plants. On the left side you see the eggs, the white eggs of Halyomorpha halys, and under the picture under it you see the crawling nymph, the first nymph stadia. Above you see the third or fourth nymph stadium, and the pears you see the crawling Halyomorpha halys. The life cycle, when we look in the winter, the adults hide in sheltered places like barns and houses. In April, when it gets warmer, the eggs they emerge from their wintering places, and the eggs are laid on wild host plants. In May, July, adults move to fruit and vegetable fruits. Here they lay their eggs and they have nymphs, and in July, September, the adults move to field crops, like apple and pear and other fruits. Here they devastate the fruits, the misformation are made, they are sucking there, and then in September, November, when it gets colder, the adults stop feeding and move to their overwintering places. The damage, brown marmorated stinkbug has piercing, sucking mouth parts, and also they remove plant cell contents while feeding. And they secrete enzymes that kill tissues. On apples and pears you can see deformation and external discoloration of the fruit, and in the fruit flesh you see hardening at the puncture site. And all this comes to depressions, necrotic areas and subberifications. And when a fruit is very heavily infested, it can drop out. You can see the eggs and the damage on the pictures on the left side. Management of brown marmorated stinkbug. Monitoring is done by visual monitoring. Farmers' experience. The physical barriers can be made by netting the entire orchard or a single row net, as you can see in the pictures on the right side. Direct control is a moth trapping, like the picture right above, with the yellow flap, and the introduction of parasitoid wasps, like the Anastasis fasciatus, which is an egg parasite, or Trisulcus japonicus. Direct control is possible with plant protection products like pyrethrin when allowed in your country, spinosad when allowed, and also with cowling. The problem is as they are very big bugs, so they have to be contact with the plant protection products, and it's not very easy to control them. There is also a native stink bug, the red-legged shieldbug, Pentatoma rufipes. This red-legged shieldbug is more devastating in the northern countries, and it's also called forest bug. On the left side you see a mating pair of a red-legged forest bug on Pear. The adults are 12 to 15 millimeters long, and they overwinter as young nymphs in the second stage on the trees, so they stay in the orchard. This life cycle is a bit different from other shieldbugs. The nymphs feed on the fruits in spring, but the adults are partly predatory, and they are feeding also on caterpillars and other insects, as well as they are sucking on fruits. And the eggs are laid in August. On the right side you see some devastated pears. It's the native stinkbug red-legged shieldbug who is doing that on Pear. Other native shieldbugs are the mottled shieldbug, the Raphigaster nebulosa, and the green shieldbug, Palomena prasina. They overwinter like Halyomorpha halys as adult on sheltered places. Monitoring and management of red-legged shieldbug. The monitoring is done by visual monitoring, or you can beat the trees and catch the shieldbugs. A physical barrier can be done by netting, but the effect is limited because the shieldbug or the red-legged shieldbug overwinters at a second nymph stadia in the orchard, so it stays in the orchard. It doesn't move here to sheltered places. Indirect control is enhancing biodiversity with flower strips and other measures to stimulate natural enemies. And one natural enemy which is determined is a parasitoid, Trisulcus cultratus. In the future, it could be possible to introduce this parasitoid, but is still in an experimental stage. Direct control can be done with plant protection products, but the measures have a variable effect, 50 to 80% effect, and it depends on timing and on the stage of the insect. Some control is aimed at the second nymph stadia, like the insecticidal soap with an adhesive, which is spread in autumn or early in spring. Pyrethrins, when allowed, and spinosad, when allowed, can be used against the red-legged shieldbug. Below you see the development of the shieldbug in 2019, 20 and 21 in a project in a research in Germany. And you can see at first you have most nympha, and then the orange piles, they are the adults of the shieldbug, which appears end of July and August. These are the used references, and thank you for attending this strategies for pest control in organic pear growing.